Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is a quick video about basically DDR4, DDR5 RAM, the ideal modules to buy, the pricing that makes sense, and all the little technical things that matter for gaming and productivity, and basically what's worth buying and what's worth letting you pass by. We'll also go over some good retailers and basic warranty policies. That way you can get an idea of where it might be worth spending a little bit more versus a little less. Now, first up is pricing. Luckily, Micro Center and a couple other retailers have been bundling RAM, which is fairly good quality RAM, with some good motherboards as well as CPUs, and what that's led to is a lot of new quality products going out on Facebook Marketplace and eBay that's never been used before and is honestly about half price to what you're seeing here. You can reliably get $50 to $60 RAM with obviously good speed, good modules, everything you want to look for. And that is quite the savings, especially when the majority of these retailers are much more reliable. But it's not the same as DDR4. There's different strengths, different weaknesses. It's not a flat improvement. So keep that in mind if you are deciding to upgrade your whole platform. First, let's go over modules. Back in the day, DDR4 modules didn't really matter. You could have 8GB sticks, you could have 16GB sticks. It was fine because of the way that dual channel memory, and then if you had 4 in your motherboard, quad channel memory worked. There wasn't any significant drawback to getting 32GB the long way or the short way. But with DDR5, it's completely different. Everything from the memory management speed to the ideal modules, to the point where if you're buying DDR5, you want to go with at least the two 16GB sticks. Not because they're higher capacity, but simply because the way the memory control works through the CPUs and the motherboards, it's more efficient when it's only dual channel. As far as speed goes, around 6,000 is the ideal spot, just because it works best with most of the CPUs on the market, excluding the X3D chips. We'll get into that later. Those are particularly different, especially when it comes to cache latency. But anything around 6,000 or slightly higher is completely fine. When you push up to 7,000 or 8,000, the price gets really high to the point where it's impractical, and you won't see any significant benefits, especially with gaming or a lot of the things that you're going to be using a custom built PC for. Now, on to manufacturers. You might be very tempted to get some of these lower priced RAM kits, but trust me, it is not worth it at all. Kingston, Team Group, Crucial, a lot of those are really budget brands, and they're budget for a reason. They break all the time, they experience horrible memory corruption, which can screw up your system directories and give you all sorts of blue screen errors that are absolutely torture. Now, this can happen obviously with any type of RAM, but nobody wants to have a bricked PC and going through 7 circles of hell trying to figure it out. So what I'd recommend is probably going to be something like G-Skill or even Corsair, although they had a really bad, somewhat bad reputation for DDR4, just because their policy for returns is very reliable. I do love G-Skill, however, because it is some of the best RAM I've seen, best prices, significantly lower than some of the other retailers, with still a very high quality product. Not to mention that all G-Skill RAM comes with a limited lifetime warranty, which means unless you do something ridiculous like cut it in half with a pair of shears, you can ship it back to them. They'll get you the new product only for the cost of postage. Now, the model that you'll most frequently find online is going to be the Flare in the 6,000 speed. Now, this is advertised as megahertz or MZ, but that's just what people call it. It's actually speed in cycles that it takes information to get from your RAM to your CPU and then back. But for the purposes of this video, we'll stick with megahertz. Now, there are a lot of different versions of the exact same model, or what looks to be the same model. As you can see, there's tons of them. the packaging is majorly identical, and the only thing that you'll be able to see the difference of is basically a little piece of model information sticker that's right around here, and that's what you want to be really dedicated into looking at, because people won't care about any of these. They'll sell them all for the same price. When the cast latencies, the first word, a lot of little things will be different that will make it really expensive or fairly worthless. Here in the real world, there are 3 RAM kits before you. 2 look pretty identical. Same packaging, same look, same model, same speed. But one of these is really good, and the other is kinda not great. They're both the same price, both purchased on eBay. Can you guess which one's good? Well, here's how you tell. Notice, the speed is 6,000. J36 is the latency. Then the 36F is not a repeat. This is actually one of the most important things that you can have when you're picking out RAM. One up here, same speed, but it's J28, also 36. Now, what you're seeing is the latency, which is the biggest issue that DDR5 sacrifices when it comes to upgrading. And you'll find these basically listed everywhere as the exact same thing, the same piece of RAM, the same price. But simply looking at those numbers will tell you if it's the best on the market or suboptimal. Now, you'll see it in 28, 30, 32, 36. All these numbers are okay. You generally want to shoot for 32 or lower, but a couple of these will be really awful. You don't want to buy them for any reason, and they're the ones that are J36, but instead of another 36, they've got a 48. Now what this is it's, I think it's TDRL or something like that. And what that means is it's the speed at which RAM can access registry memory, basically how fast it can go through the columns and locate information, not just speed. And when you're using any of this for gaming or anything like video editing, that is one of the most important pieces. So whatever you do, look at the little code, make sure that it's 36, not anything else. Now the reason that I have some DDR4 here is so you can see that it is not a flat improvement. It's half the speed, but the latency is almost nothing. This is very middle of the road RAM standard, and it's C15 versus the best being C28. Now this is faster, without a doubt, and that's a good thing. But when it comes to high performance tasks where you're going from maxing out the CPU's L3 cache down to your VRAM, it is important to try and reduce that latency rating as much as you can, because that's the real crutch. It's the issue that these DDR5 modules do have that, believe it or not, makes that outperform this on quite a few games, not just older ones. Really looking into the numbering will help you get the best of both worlds. You can ignore these for now. That'll be in a different video. Now back to the computer. Let's explain a couple things where resolution and basic system stuff comes into play with this. Now, whether you're gaming in 4K, 1440, 1080, any of that, latency and the directory location speed is going to be very important, because obviously if you don't have an X3D chip, your system CPU will request resources from your VRAM, and it'll be something that you want to obviously not have a latency or frame drop. So you do want to push towards these 32, 30s, or even 28s if you can find them. With X3D chips, it's a little different. You should prioritize speed over the latency, because those chips have a massive memory allocation. You're not going to be switching between your RAM through your motherboard and back to your CPU all that often, so it won't matter. Finally, the site I'm using is PC Part Picker. If you find a RAM set and you want to see if it's good or not, simply look up PC Part Picker, create your own, and select RAM. From here you can check ratings, you can find the exact form factor to fit your motherboard, type, also the module, so you don't accidentally start looking at 8 GB because that's awful. Keep the color anything. RAM looks fine the way it is. You barely see anything but the top. First word latency, obviously you want to have that pretty low, but what you really want to look at is CAS latency because they depend on each other, kind of. Voltage doesn't matter. There's no RAM that's going to overheat and cause you issues. And timings, you can leave that alone. There's so many different timing sets that it's not worth going through them all. But if you use this website, you'll get a decent idea of whether it's favored, what it might cost new, so you can have an idea of what to look for if you're going to buy it new or used. They also have pretty good descriptions and multiple retailers, which I like a lot. I've used this for quite a few of my builds. It always comes in handy. I hope you learned a little bit from this video. Remember, just because the buyer doesn't know exactly what type of RAM they're selling doesn't mean you shouldn't know exactly what type of RAM you are buying. Take care. Look for a couple new videos coming up. I've got a PC rebuild in mind, so I'm going to enjoy it and make use of it to the fullest. That's all for now. Adios.